Hello and welcome to Legal Bites. If you're new here, my name is Alita. I'm a lawyer licensed in California and DC, and on this channel, we explain the law one bite at a time. We don't give legal advice, but we do talk about how the law works and try to look into our crystal ball to see how things might turn out. If you're enjoying this on YouTube, we'd love it if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, all the great YouTube-y stuff. And if you want to listen while out and about, we're now offering our live streams in podcast form where you can leave a rating and review. Links are in the description below, as well as to our clips channel where you can find some of the best clips taken from our live streams. Otherwise, if you want to catch me elsewhere, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so on Locals, Patreon, or by becoming a YouTube member, or by buying some really awesome Legal Bites merch. Again, all links are in the description below. And with that said, let's get into it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this wonderful Thursday. I hope you're having a good day, a good week. And we are headed towards the weekend already again. So how's everybody doing? How's everyone doing? Holmes is, of course, once again, not following the rules. He doesn't care that is supposed to be the place where the dog sits. Of course, that's mostly a joke. But, that is usually the spot where Indy sits. But he's taking it up quite cozily. Indy doesn't seem to have a problem. She's right here on the floor right next to him. And you guys can't see it, but she's there. So anyhow, we're doing well. Let's say hello to folks in the chat. Let's see here. Got some saved here. Brittany Chanel, good morning from Illinois. We've got Monica Korpinen. Hello, everyone. Sweden checking in. Hey, Monica. Debbie Faison Cook from cold and rainy Florida. I hope everything's good there. I know that it still is hurricane season, right? I mean, I think so. Let's see. Shireen, rainy Yorkshire today too. Jessica says, morning, Alita and mods from beautiful, sunny northern New Jersey. And good morning. Princess Consuela Banana Hammock. That is a fantastic name. I absolutely love it. Coming in cold from snowy Vancouver Island. Hopefully you are staying warm. M says, good morning, everyone from Southern California. Good morning. Cheryl M. Hi from Kansas. Mandy Me, morning from old, rainy and windy Georgia. Well, good morning. Eat me in Wurstchen or Wurstchen. Says hello from South Korea. Hello. Let's see. Where else are we coming in from? We've got Diane Liverman from Virginia, Gina D from Boca Raton, Florida, Kelly Marie from Madison, Wisconsin. We've got Michelle Johans 1 from Norway. We've got Mantha Johnny from Montreal again. Bronwyn W. from Utah. Good morning. Otterly Bell from Sweden. Janneke Vandelar from the Netherlands. Hope everyone is feeling okay. Likewise. Jennifer Starks from OKC, Oklahoma City. Yeah, Oklahoma City, right? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I've had a few blonde moments today. I don't think that's one of them. Let's see here. We've also got Couch Crew Chief from North Carolina. Good morning. And SBNTN says, good morning, y'all, from Southeastern Tennessee. Sarah Beth, good to see you. Cheryl C says, hi from Austin. Michelle Johans 1 from Norway. Valerie Creason from Northern California. Pamela C from Arizona. Let's see. And Robbie Dobby from Nova Scotia. Andrea Lisi from Argentina. Oh, and then we've also got from Venezuela. Michelle, good to see you. We've got Sarah Turner. Good morning from Banner Springs, Kansas. Carmen from Bavaria. The Johnny wants to know if I've had too much coffee again. No, today, no coffee, but I have had hot cocoa. So I don't know. Maybe that'll do me in today. Jan E. Wallace from Glasgow, Scotland. Wonderful. I love to see it. I love to see folks from all the way around the world every single time. It's awesome. So we've got more updates today, once again, for the Harvey Weinstein trial and the Danny Masterson trial. And it's going to be more, more tough stuff that we're going to be hearing about. There's some interesting stuff coming out of Masterson about Lisa Marie Presley testifying or not testifying. Maybe her testimony is going to be saved for the civil case, which there, if you are not familiar, in the Danny Masterson case, there are two lawsuits happening. There are two cases happening, right? There's the criminal case and then there's a civil case. The criminal case is Danny Masterson, obviously, is the criminal defendant here. SA allegations, just like Harvey Weinstein. I don't know about but they're similar to Harvey Weinstein's allegations with multiple women. They span, a bit of time, right? And in the Masterson case, there's also a civil case that follows because I think it's three women, and then one of the husbands of one of the women have filed against Danny Masterson and the Church of Scientology for retaliation, harassment, stalking, all of that kind of stuff, basically saying that ever since the woman came forward to publicly name Danny Masterson as their alleged perpetrator, that ever since then they have been experiencing all kinds of terrible things from the Church of Scientology and from Danny Masterson. I think that most of those allegations, from what I've seen, and I haven't dug into it too deep yet, but from what I've seen, I do believe that they are mostly directed at the Church of Scientology. So, yeah, but Lisa Marie Presley, it sounds like she might be giving testimony. She's indicated at least that she is willing to testify to some things about what the Church of Scientology did with some of these women that have accused Danny Masterson of the things that they said that he's done. So interesting. So we'll hear from Tony Ortega. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know I think it's because they both end in Y, and they're like typical Americana names, I guess. I don't know. There's something about it that sometimes I catch myself saying Danny Ortega, which is awful. I don't mean any kind of offense by that. But Tony Ortega, Danny Masterson, two very different people. Okay, but Tony Ortega, of course, has been in the courtroom every single day. He's an independent journalist who's been covering Scientology for a very long time. And so he has been giving so much information about this case. So I have pinned in a comment in the chat, and it's also in the description below, that some links to his Substack, where he gives basically transcripts from every single day, and to his YouTube channel, which has the videos that I take from, because those are really good, just kind of short, succinct summaries. But if you want more detail, he's got also other videos where he's talking about these cases also outside of these updates. And the Substack, obviously, so you can see like essentially the transcripts of what's happening here in this particular case. So, and then for the Harvey Weinstein case, we're going to go through a couple of Variety articles today, because unfortunately we don't have anyone that we can look to that's in the courtroom, other than your typical journalists, right, who are writing these articles. So we'll go through those, and we'll see what comes out of them, and hopefully there's an accurate framing. Nothing we can do about that, since we don't know for ourselves. We're not in the courtroom, right, to know whether or not they are actually being accurate in their journalism, but we'll see. So with that said, obviously with both of these topics, I know that there are a lot of people that have been through DV and SA experiences, encounters themselves. So trigger warning on both of these cases, right? This is some heavy stuff that we get into. It involves cross-examination of witnesses, of alleged victims, and that is tough, right? Putting someone who has ostensibly been through something very traumatic, and then putting them in a position where somebody is poking holes in the things that they say happened, that can be difficult. And also just the experiences that they testify to are also very difficult. And so if that is something that is difficult for you, by no means should you hang around for this, if it is troubling for you, right? If you are feeling like you are having a hard time, take a step back, do what you need to do. Your mental health, your emotional health is very, very, very important, and take care of yourself, please. So, okay. Before we get into the first article, because we're going to do Harvey Weinstein first, Carmen Finn, thank you so much for the super sticker. That is very kind, very generous of you. And I really appreciate it. Okay. Let's see here. All right. Let's pull this one up. Okay, so this one is from Tuesday. So obviously, since we are basically getting we're getting these updates, we're going through these updates on Tuesdays and Thursdays here, right? So we've been through everything up through Monday. So now we're going to go through Tuesday and Wednesday, and obviously we can't today. We don't know because they will be in trial starting in a few hours. So okay, let's go through Tuesday first. All right. So it says here model Ambra Betalana Gutierrez, who was at the center of Harvey Weinstein NYPD sting operation in 2015, gets her day in court. All right. And I will zoom in a little bit further. Okay. Okay. A model whose police report caused sex crimes prosecutors to investigate Harvey Weinstein in 2015, 2 years before his colossal downfall in 2017, testified in Weinstein's R trial on Tuesday at the criminal courthouse in downtown Los Angeles. So I've said this before, I'll say it again. I do self-censor when we're talking about some of these buzzwords that YouTube tends to not like. So we are trying to I don't want to help the YouTube algorithm and limiting the reach of these kinds of videos. So I do self-censor. If that bothers you for some reason, I don't know what to tell you. It's not because I have any particular sensitivities to the conversation myself. I wouldn't be talking about these cases if I did. It is literally just because I know YouTube doesn't like them. When we do play the Tony Ortega videos, he uses the full R word plenty, and so that's fine, that's fair. I just tried to at least limit it. So because that's in my opinion, it's maybe it's a wasted effort, but I'm always hopeful that I can try to sort of limit the penalties by the YouTube algorithm. So all right, let's continue on. Amber Batalana Gutierrez, who is an uncharged witness in Weinstein's current trial, was at the center of a New York Police Department sting operation in 2015. And so when they're talking about an uncharged witness, what they're saying is that she is a witness who is testifying to similar things to what other witnesses are testifying to, except that there is no charge in this case associated with her experiences. So the jury is not going to be determining whether or not Harvey Weinstein SA'd this woman, right? She is just being presented as a witness for other purposes. She had cooperated with police to wear a wire and record Weinstein following her allegations that he had groped her front and put his hand up her skirt during a casting meeting. Gutierrez's participation with the cops led to Weinstein being investigated, but former Manhattan DA Cyrus Vance opted not to prosecute the case, and Weinstein was never charged. After that first brush with authorities, Weinstein continued to court power as one of the most influential producers in Hollywood for more than 2 years until further allegations against him ignited the hashtag #MeToo movement. Gutierrez's audio recording became a smoking gun when it was later published in Ronan Farrow's Weinstein expose in The New Yorker in October 2017. And yeah, that's a whole other conversation to that can be had about why the Manhattan DA didn't pursue charges when they had actual audio recorded evidence of him in a conversation with a woman saying, "Why did you do this to me?" And as many of us know, it wasn't until Ronan Farrow's New Yorker expose that anyone really started to pay attention and actually do something about this stuff with regard to Harvey Weinstein. The model has become one of the most prominent accusers associated with Weinstein's downfall, having spoken out about her I'm not Canadian, having spoken out about her allegations many times over the past few years. When her story hit the press in 2015 and Weinstein was arrested, she received ample tabloid attention. She has since said in interviews that she believes Weinstein planted negative stories about her and that many forces helped to enable and cover up for Weinstein. In this LA case, she's being identified as Ambra B in order to protect her identity, but given her public appearances in the past, Variety is using her full name. And I feel, and Tony Ortega has talked about this in the Masterson case, that it sounds like he really disagrees with this kind of practice to say, like, look, like there's a reason why the court is using someone's, there's a reason why they're using some, not quite a pseudonym, but a protected name for these witnesses, right? It doesn't matter that other people are know who she is. I don't know. I don't know what the standard really should be here in this kind of a case, but it does sound like that may be a controversial decision, right? To actually name her as opposed to using just Amber B. Andy the Gay Baker, thanks so much for your super chat. Says, I'm watching this in all caps, mind you. I'm watching this on my outbound flight from Vegas. I don't care what this pilot tells me. Oh, dude, Andy, listen to the pilot, please. Don't get yourself kicked off a flight. I know it's a short flight. I know it's a short one. So, from Southern California to Vegas, but uh I know that Mrs. the Game Maker would prefer for your flight not to be delayed because you've gotten kicked off for, for doing something. Oh man. I think, yeah, actually, you're saying this pilot can't tell me what to do. The pilot most definitely can tell you what to do. All right. Thanks for the super chat, Andy. And for being a goofball. All right. On Tuesday, Gutierrez was called by the prosecution as a prior bad acts witness. In other words, the DA's office is presenting her account to the jury in order to establish a pattern of behavior by Weinstein, but none of the charges Weinstein is facing in the trial stem from her allegations. During her testimony, the jury was shown extensive surveillance video of Gutierrez with Weinstein during the alleged incidents and listened to audio recordings that Gutierrez had secretly captured in conjunction with NYPD. So, okay, so this is why she's testifying is about the prior bad acts bit. And in California, that is something that can be done. Even if it's I mean, there are limitations to what kind of testimony can be used, but in California, it sounds like I haven't looked extensively at other states, but it does sound like in California they allow more of this kind of evidence than they do in other states. I will also say that this secretly captured audio recordings happened in New York, which when we've talked about audio recordings where one party to the recording consents and the other one doesn't. In California, that's not okay. In New York, that is okay. So it doesn't matter that he didn't know that he was being recorded. It happened in New York. And so that's perfectly kosher, even if it's being introduced in a California court, I think. I think it is. Also, Uncivil Law, happy to see you in the chat as well. I do appreciate your turn of phrase here. I bite my thumb at you. Subscribe. Appreciate it, man. Okay. Gutierrez came to New York City from her native Italy and briefly met Weinstein at a party at Radio City Music Hall that she attended with her modeling agency on March 26, 2015. When Weinstein introduced himself to her, Gutierrez did not know who he was. She told the jury that Weinstein paid close attention to her and said she looked like Mila Kunis. She introduced Weinstein to her agent, and the next day, her agent had booked a casting meeting with Weinstein. That next day, March 27, 2015, Gutierrez went to the casting meeting at Weinstein's Tribeca offices in downtown Manhattan. An assistant brought her into an office where she was alone with Weinstein and seated next to him on a couch. She showed him her modeling portfolio, which contained lingerie and bikini photos. Looking at the photos, Weinstein asked her, if her breasts were real. Oh, God. That's such a personal question. That's so uncomfortable. It was weird. Nobody ever asked, Gutierrez told the jury, comparing her meeting with Weinstein to typical casting meetings. She said that Weinstein asked, "You sure?" and then grabbed her. Jesus Christ, that's horrible. At first, I just stand still, Gutierrez testified. I was shocked. Yeah, I think anyone would be. Holy crap. Gutierrez said Weinstein then asked her for a kiss and she moved back. I can just I'm just I'm having like physical reactions to this. He put his hand on her leg, she recalled, and he was trying to reach underneath her skirt. I said, "Sorry, I don't do these things with people I don't know," which is a perfectly reasonable response. And he pushed back. Oh, and he pushed back, Gutierrez told the jury. She explained that he attempted to ask for a kiss numerous times, but when he realized that she was declining, he moved further away from her on the couch. After the incident, Gutierrez was shaking and felt like she was about to pass out. Understandably. Weinstein left the meeting, and one of his assistants told her that Weinstein wanted to invite her to a Broadway play he produced, Finding Neverland, which was in theater that night. Gutierrez didn't tell anyone in Weinstein's office what had just happened, explaining, "I felt like if he did that in his office when people were outside, I didn't feel safe there. I felt like I needed to go to the police." Fair. That's entirely fair. Gutierrez immediately went to her agency to tell her agents what had happened, and she said she wanted to go to the police station. She said her agent tried to prevent her from going to the police because of Weinstein's power in the industry, but she went anyway. Ooh, I would like to hear from the agent to get corroboration on that. Um, I mean, just because it's good to see that kind of corroboration to sort of like solidify her testimony here. I couldn't understand. I felt like something bad happened, and when something bad happened, you go to the police, she said in court. That uh yeah, that's her instinct is 100% correct. And I understand many women that struggle with doing that. I implore anyone, if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, to tell someone as quickly as possible, preferably to go to the police, because then there are far fewer questions about the credibility of your testimony, not from me as a personal judgment, but from potentially from a jury. With her agent accompanying her, she went to the police station and reported the groping incident the same night it allegedly occurred. The first station sent her to the SVU where she spoke with authorities. In court on Tuesday, a detective who was at the police station the night Gutierrez reported the incident in 2015 testified and told the jury that he recalls her being shaken up and crying with mascara running down her face and thought she might need to vomit. Ooh, okay. Uh, So yeah, so there's, I mean, there is corroboration with the police, which it seems like that's what would happen, right? We would get someone from the police office, some police officer that she talked to that night, talking about their report, right? Just like we've been seeing a ton in the Masterson case as well. While Gutierrez was at the police station, Weinstein sent her an email asking her to meet him at the Broadway show that his assistant had invited her to earlier that day. The police instructed Gutierrez to contact Weinstein so that they could record the call, and she spoke to Weinstein while the police instructed her on how to speak to him. In court, jurors listened to the recording of this call in which Weinstein said, "I felt bad. I don't want to be aggressive with you. I like you." On that call, the police had instructed Gutierrez to bring up his earlier commentary about her breasts being fake. And when she did, Weinstein said, oh God. Weinstein said, "They feel beautiful, but I can tell if they're fake." Ugh. Calling her sweetheart, honey, and baby at one point, Weinstein said, "I feel immediate affection to you." In the context of speaking about potential acting roles, Weinstein offered to be a mentor, which he described as when an older man teaches younger women. Ugh. Ugh. Everything about this is awful. Yeah, this is heavy. I can definitely understand if anyone is feeling triggered and needs to step away. Okay. Per the police's instruction, Gutierrez made plans to meet up with Weinstein the next day. The police agent was telling me what to ask, she explained to the jury. With his assistant on the line during another call the next morning, Weinstein reserved tickets to Finding Neverland and arranged to have his driver pick up Gutierrez at her apartment and bring her to the theater. After, he would have his driver bring her to the Tribeca Grand Hotel where he planned to meet her for a drink. Gutierrez went to the Tribeca Grand wearing a wire from the police to record Weinstein. The jury was played this recording Tuesday in court as well. Ugh, I wish we could hear it. As gross as it probably is, I really I really wish we could hear it. Maybe we'll be able to find it elsewhere. But I wish they had it in this as like embedded in here. At the hotel, Gutierrez got a coffee downstairs with Weinstein. During that meeting, he said, "If you want to spend time with me, I will mentor you." Ugh. Ugh, this whole like mentorship offer creeps me out. At another point, he complimented her, "You're more beautiful than Adriana Lima. You're amazing." Abruptly, he is heard saying, "I'm going to go upstairs to my room. Let's go." Mm, mm. Weinstein told Gutierrez that he was going to take a shower in the room. When she expressed discomfort with going into the room and being put in a situation where anything could be sexual, he said, "We won't do that. We'll do other things, but not that." He mentioned a massage, and Gutierrez said, "No, I don't want to." Weinstein replied, "Okay, we'll see." On the recording, he is heard saying, "Don't be shy and don't worry. I'm not being pushy." Even though undercover cops were surrounding Gutierrez in an effort to leave Weinstein, she told him that she forgot her jacket downstairs in the lobby. He insisted on going with her downstairs. He always followed, Gutierrez said on the stand. In an effort to interfere, one of the undercover cops posed as a TMZ gossip reporter and began to question Weinstein, who became angered. When that plan didn't work, Gutierrez continued to walk with Weinstein through the hotel as he was guiding her upstairs to a room. "I was just trying to go with the flow," Gutierrez testified. "I knew police was around me." It's important for this story to get out, though. I mean, as uncomfortable as this is. Oh God. Part of Gutierrez and Weinstein's recorded conversation occurred in an elevator full of people. Weinstein told Gutierrez not to embarrass him in front of other people. "You must come here now," Weinstein demanded on the tape. She said, "I don't want to be touched. I want to go downstairs." "Honey, don't have a fight with me in the hallway," Weinstein said. Ugh. Also, like, she just met you, bro. Why are you calling her honey? Gutierrez asked, "Why yesterday you touched my breast?" Weinstein then said, "Don't ruin your friendship with me for 5 minutes." Gross. At another point, he told her, "If you do this now, never call me again, and you will lose big opportunities." Ugh. Now he's threatening her entire career. "I just wanted to get out of there," Gutierrez told the jury. She had realized that no police officers had followed her up to the floor where Weinstein was taking her, and he was insisting she go into the room with him. "I really didn't want to get into the room," Gutierrez said, but she didn't know if she had to stay to collect more information for the NYPD. "At that point, I wanted to leave. I felt alone," she said. "I didn't like it. I didn't want him to get me into a room where I was alone with him." She left to go to the elevator, and Weinstein once again followed her and insisted they get a drink at the hotel bar downstairs, even though she had told him multiple times that she doesn't drink alcohol. The police had previously instructed her to go to the bathroom whenever she felt uncomfortable, so she went into the hotel bathroom downstairs where a police agent was waiting for her, and she safely left the hotel. Oh, geez. Thank God. I mean, like it seems like that whole like that fact pattern that we just went through, that fact pattern that we just went through, like that could have gone so wrong in so many ways. Um that was very, very, very tense. But they managed to get that audio, and I think that audio, I mean, that was one of the things that blew the door open for Roe and Farrow's expose. And then that also, I think, was one of the big reasons why they had such a strong case in New York. And I think that it's going to play a big role in this particular case as well, because it's all of these other cases that we have, are not cases, but all of these other instances that we've looked at before this have been, let me move over a little bit here. All of these other instances that we've gone through have been women testifying to what they experienced, right? And then getting cross-examined on that. But it's like there hasn't been any like video, audio to like corroborate, right? Because these are all things that happened, generally speaking, in a hotel room somewhere. Even specifically, a lot of these in like the bathroom of a hotel room. So, it's hard to get corroboration on a lot of these accounts, to have um other than to have someone corroborate on, like, yes, they told me this like immediately afterwards, or like within however much time, and it was before the Me Too movement happened. Like that's kind of like the best corroboration that they could get. But this right here is audio, right? Like you hear his voice saying these things. You hear her confronting him saying, um, her confronting him about like, why did you do this thing? And then him not denying it and just saying, like, you don't want to mess with me, or you don't want to fight with me, or something like that, or don't do this publicly. So this is strong. This is very strong, in my opinion. After Gutierrez's testimony and the jury listening to the recordings and watching the hotel surveillance, Weinstein's defense attorney, Alan Jackson, cross examined Gutierrez briefly, only asking very few questions. The underlying incident that all this is about is that Mr. Weinstein touched your breast one time for 1 second, Jackson asked Gutierrez. I don't know if it was 1 second, she said. It felt a lot longer. It felt like an eternity. Jackson told Gutierrez that in previous interviews with detectives from the DA's office, she had said it was maybe a second. Dissecting more of her own statements, Weinstein's attorney continued to look through transcripts from Gutierrez's previous interviews with authorities and prodded into her exact words. In one police interview, Gutierrez had said that Weinstein touched her knee, but Jackson pointed out that during her testimony in court, she told the jury that Weinstein had touched her top of leg. Gutierrez shot back at Jackson, my knee is part of my leg. What's the difference? Okay, so yeah. So, she was groped, once in this instance, but then I think that what gets captured by the rest of her testimony is the fact that she was very, very close to being probably just like all of these other women, and having much more come about of all of these of these various instances. Um so the importance of her testimony is that she gives a window into what his demeanor actually was like in these moments leading up to it, right? Because I think that one of the things that the jury is likely to be asking is how does this happen that a woman is tricked into coming to his hotel room, or he just like barges his way into her hotel room and she can't just like either leave or make him leave. Like, how does that happen? Like the jury is likely to have those kinds of questions. This audio is very, very useful to show his aggressiveness, to show the way in which a woman who has NYPD basically surrounding her, that they are there to try to like make sure nothing bad actually happens to her, but that she's able to capture this audio of him essentially admitting to doing these things. Um, Someone like her, with that kind of support around her in that moment, still feels very dangerously close to having something very terrible happen to her, right? And so that gives that important window for the rest of these women who have testified to say, like, they're not just like weak women, right? Like they're not just, it's not that, and it's not that they are like, that they had consensual encounters with him that they later wanted to call non-consensual encounters. Like this is someone who barged his way into their lives, uh made an offer that they couldn't refuse because they tried to refuse and he wouldn't accept that refusal, and then proceeded to do what he wanted to do, which was violating the most intimate aspects of any human being, right? So that's like I said, that's very important testimony, even though on cross-examination, they're trying to say like, okay, but it was just this, or it was just that. Um, eh, they're smart to keep the cross-examination small, right? Just a few questions, because there's only so much that you can do with a cross-examination where you have that kind of audio coming from the other side. Okay, let's get to the next article. Okay. All right. Now, this one is, like I said, it's another Variety article. It's called Harvey Weinstein's trial, social media influencer testifies after assurance she won't be charged as an accomplice. What is she potentially an accomplice for? Influencer Claudia Salinas is called by prosecution as a witness pertaining to Jane Doe number 2, but she disputes any involvement in alleged events. All right, let's see. After being subpoenaed by the prosecution, a social media influencer reluctantly took the stand after she was given assurances that she would not be charged as Harvey Weinstein's accomplice. Claudia Salinas, a dancer and influencer who met Weinstein in the early 2000s, was called by the prosecution, who questioned Salinas as to whether she led Jane Doe number 2 up to Weinstein's hotel room, where an SA allegedly took place. Salinas disputed the alleged version of events. Prior to her testimony, Salinas appeared before the judge on Tuesday with her attorney, Scott Rosenblum, who expressed concerns over her testifying and suggested she might invoke the Fifth Amendment. Deputy District Attorney Paul Thompson said Rosenblum asked if his client Salinas could be charged as an accomplice. I told him I haven't charged her yet. I have no intention of charging her, but it is still within statute, Thompson said, before making a statement that she wouldn't be charged, but is not being granted immunity. With that, Salinas was called to testify on Wednesday, during which she denied any involvement in helping lure women to Weinstein, including Jane Doe number 2, whose real name is Lauren Young. I don't know why they're using her real name when the court wants her to be identified as Jane Doe number 2. Variety, come on. What are you doing? They also don't have, like, normally when journalism outlets like this, when they use someone's real name in this kind of a situation, they usually, it's like the first time the name shows up, usually they have some kind of a parenthetical saying like, it's not our habit to name these people unless they have given us permission to do so, as this person has. But I don't see that here, so I'm okay. Salinas previously testified in Weinstein's New York trial. During that trial, she also denied any association to Young's allegations. Young said that she first met Salinas at an industry dinner in 2012, where they spoke about her desire to become a screenwriter. The two became friendly that night and exchanged contact information. And 1 year later, in February 2013, Young said Salinas texted asking to meet her and Weinstein for a drink at the Montage Hotel in Beverly Hills, California. Young said she brought a script that she hoped to pitch Weinstein, and later that night, Young alleges she was assaulted by Weinstein upstairs in his hotel suite. She claims Salinas helped usher her upstairs and told the jury that as she was trapped in the hotel bathroom by Weinstein, she looked in the mirror and saw Salinas closing the door, leaving her alone with Weinstein. Oh boy. I saw Claudia Salinas right there. I shot her an evil look, Young testified. She didn't say anything. She looked at me. She had this evil look, like a smirk, like she roped me in on something. During her testimony, Selena said she recalled the cocktail meeting with Young and Weinstein at the Montage, but said she never spoke to Young about any script. When asked by Weinstein's attorney, Mark Worksman, did you bring Jane Doe number 2 to the meeting to offer her up to Weinstein sexually? She replied, absolutely not. I'm not sure why the prosecution has called her then. I mean, other than to corroborate that Jane Doe 2 actually was there that night. Were you in the business of procuring women for Mr. Weinstein to have sex with? Worksman asked Salinas. He also asked, did you act as a pimp for Mr. Weinstein? Salinas responded to no to both questions. She also testified that she did not see Young go into a hotel bathroom with Weinstein and did not close a bathroom door behind Young and Weinstein. Oh, so this is now cross-examination, it looks like. Unless, did I miss something? Are we now in, sorry guys. No, she was, yeah, we're still in the prosecution's case in chief. I'm okay. So then this has to be during cross-examination then. Okay. All right. Did you ever stand outside a bathroom while Mr. Weinstein AR'd someone inside? Worksman said, absolutely not, Salinas replied. When the prosecution questioned Salinas, Deputy DA Thompson asked about her relationship with Weinstein and showed the jury emails confirming that Salinas had communicated with Weinstein about setting up meetings with Young. Thompson pointed out that Salinas was a professional ballerina with essentially no acting credits when she met Weinstein in 2003. And shortly after meeting him, he had cast her in a role as a dancer in his 2004 film, Dirty Dancing, Havana Nights. Salinas confirmed that she was hired on 3 films that were produced by Weinstein. When asked if she considered Weinstein to be someone who could advance your career, Salinas agreed. The deputy DA questioned Salinas as to how the meeting at the Montage with Young ever came about. He pointed out the age difference between Young, who would have been in her early 20s, and Weinstein, who was around 60 at the time. How many times did you see Mr. Weinstein alone with a woman in her early 20s? Thompson asked Salinas. The deputy DA then asked Salinas if she helped arrange or participate in meetings with Weinstein and young women. Salinas said that Weinstein was in town and asked her to meet him for a drink. She never showed up alone, so she brought a friend. Thompson doubled down on why she invited Young, particularly since they hadn't seen each other since they first met a year ago. I thought she was a nice girl to reconnect with. There was nothing peculiar, Salinas said. Thompson focused on the word peculiar and asked again why she would bring Young of all people. She was a model. It would be good for her to meet Harvey Weinstein, Salinas said. Maybe. The day after the alleged assault at the Montage, Young was called to the Weinstein Company's offices to meet with one of Weinstein's executives, Barbara Schneeweiss. When Young testified last week, she said she saw Salinas in the waiting room. I told her, don't effing talk to me. She didn't say anything, Young told the jury. On Wednesday, Salinas was asked repeatedly about that meeting with Young and Schneeweiss. She said numerous times that she doesn't remember the meeting, even when the prosecutor showed emails establishing that the meeting occurred. I'm not asking you this sarcastically. Is there something wrong with your memory? Thompson asked Salinas. No, there's nothing wrong with my memory, she replied. Thompson then showed Salinas the emails pertaining to the meeting. In one email, Weinstein complimented Schneeweiss, writing, well done with Claudia and Jane Doe too. It looks like I went to that meeting, but I don't remember that meeting, Salinas said on the stand. I still don't remember that meeting, so it wouldn't be able to, I was supposed to say, so I wouldn't be able to tell you, she said, before agreeing that it appears she was there. I mean, this was back in, 2015, 7 years ago. So, yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of meetings that I have been to that I have no recollection of. Not to be an apologist for this woman, but I'm just saying that it is possible that that may be the case. Or Maybe she's just trying to hide involvement with Weinstein and her role with Jane Doe too. Aside from that meeting, Weinstein had also invited Young to an Oscars party thrown by the Weinstein Company. Young did not attend and never saw Weinstein again. But communications between Salinas and the Weinstein Company showed the efforts to bring her to the party. The prosecutor told the jury that when Salinas was invited to the Oscars party, she RSVP'd with one of her own friends, but was told by the Weinstein Company that she was only allowed to attend the party with Young as her guest. That was a little odd, Salinas admitted. Yeah, that's really odd. That's really, really odd. What, like, why would that be? Except for this awful things happening. Or I should say these awful things happening. Sorry, my brain is not connecting right now. Mr. Weinstein wanted to enlist your help in bringing Young to the party, Thompson suggested. Salinas disagreed. Why would you disagree? What, like, how that's not reasonable to disagree. If they literally told you, you can come to the party, but the only situation in which you can bring a guest is this woman that that Harvey Weinstein had you bring to a hotel for drinks with you so that he could meet with her. Like, why would you disagree that they wanted to enlist your help in bringing her to the party then? That doesn't make any sense. That now she's being unreasonable, in my opinion. Thompson then asked if there was any further communication with Weinstein about Young that week, and Salinas paused before answering, "I don't remember." Yeah, I think that her disagreement here, and then with her memory issues around this meeting, around these meetings, uh, all of that feels very shady, in my opinion. Thompson then asked if there was any further communication with Weinstein about Young that week, and Salinas paused before answering, "I don't remember." Yeah, no. The deputy DA then showed Salinas an email from Weinstein asking Claudia to set up yet another meeting with her and Young. In the email, Salinas says she has other plans, but writes back to coordinate timing for him to meet with Young. "I was offering nothing," Salinas said, combatively disagreeing with Thompson's line of questioning that she was helping Weinstein. "He was a business contact," Salinas said. "I thought if he wanted to meet, why not?" Yeah, but we have seen at this point that Harvey Weinstein's business contacts are also interchangeable with his romantic conquests. So I don't buy what she's saying there. After roughly 3 hours on the stand, Salinas was dismissed, appearing rattled as she left the courtroom. Yeah, understandably. That I don't think she comes out of this looking good. I really don't. Okay. Now, but that is it for Harvey Weinstein. I think that the last couple days have continued to be good for the prosecution so far. Uh, the testimony that's come out, I think has been favorable for the prosecution. Um, yeah, I think that continues to be the case here with Weinstein. We might be looking at another resounding verdict in the favor of prosecution and just more jail time for Harvey Weinstein as a result of this case. Obviously, though, they still have to put on their case in chief. The defense has to put on their case in chief. So we'll see what happens with that. But so far, I think it's a pretty good case on the part of the state. Okay, now let's get on to Danny Masterson here. All right. Okay. So we've got let's see here. Okay. So this first is actually from Tuesday, this first video, because Tony Ortega was in court and in the morning session learned of some breaking news. It had to do with Lisa Marie Presley. If you guys have been following this, you might already know yourself, but let's take a look at this really quick video First, talking about this, it actually is going from Tuesday, earlier in the day.
Underground Bunker, I got a breaking news flash for you. Couldn't wait. It's a long lunch break. I decided to come out and talk to you about that post I just put out. Amazing news about Lisa Marie Presley. Let me help you understand what just happened in court. Today, they were trying to work. Today's Tuesday. I'm excited. Today's Tuesday morning, and the attorneys were in there without a jury just to talk about some witnesses, and Lisa Marie Presley came up. The judge wanted to understand better why the prosecution was bringing her in. So Deputy DA Mueller had to spell out the situation and why there was such a last-minute interview with her, which is what the defense was complaining about. Here's what Deputy DA Mueller told us. They were subpoenaing Lisa Marie Presley so she could testify that after Jane Doe 1, who was a close friend of hers, had her April 2003 attack by Danny Masterson. Jane Doe 1 was talking about going to the LAPD. Mueller said Lisa Marie would testify that she was instructed by Scientology to dissuade Jane Doe 1 from going to the police. There's another name for that, ladies and gentlemen. It is called obstruction of justice. Now,
yeah, it's a big deal.
Mueller said they subpoenaed Lisa Marie to come in. At the last minute, they heard from one of her attorneys who let them know she not only would be testifying to a crime, but one that she took part in.
Yeah.
And if they called her to this witness stand to testify about it, she would take the Fifth Amendment. Woo! Mueller said he told the attorney he believed it was out of statute, it's been too long, but he granted immunity if that's what it would take. And so...
different than the Weinstein case, right? Because we just heard in the Weinstein case, the social media influencer Salinas, her attorney came in and said, we don't want her to be charged for, for whatever. She might take the Fifth. She might, invoke her rights under the Fifth Amendment. And so the DA in the Weinstein case said, well, I don't anticipate charging her, but I'm not going to promise immunity. Different than in this case where they said, yeah, we'll give you immunity.
Lisa Marie then gave a statement just this last Friday about what went down, and Mueller shared it immediately with the defense. Judge Olmedo didn't have a problem with that timing. She rejected, objections from the defense about that. She said, calm down. However, as much of a bombshell as that is, Judge Olmedo said that's not coming in. She said that Lisa Marie can come in and testify about what's called prior consistent statements. In other words, she can say, yeah, Jane Doe 1 told me back in 2003 or 2004 that she was raped by Danny Masterson, but she can't go into any of the Scientology stuff. They're going to have to save that for the civil lawsuit, Judge Olmedo said. Very disappointing, but I understand her point of view. She's trying to limit the Scientology material so that it's extremely relevant to the Jane Does and their state of mind.
So why would she do that? So saying that they can testify to that Lisa Marie Presley can testify to prior consistent acts or statements by these Jane Does. That's what we've seen with these other witnesses that have been corroborating the stories by Jane Does 1, 2, and 3. Right? We've had moms come in, we've had friends come in, we've had other people come in to corroborate. So and so told me that this thing happened to them on this date, and it's consistent with what they are saying now today in court. So Judge Olmedo is saying that she can testify to that kind of stuff. What she can't testify to is Scientology instructing her and then her affirmatively going and taking that instruction and acting on that instruction to try to prevent Jane Doe 1 from actually going forward to the police. This is kind of a borderline sort of issue, right? Because the issue here isn't that that's not relevant, right? Because it is relevant. It's relevant to the extent that these women have said they did not come forward to the police for such an amount of time because they were afraid of Scientology, because they went to Scientology first to complain to them, and then they were essentially told, like, you can't go to the cops, you can't do this, you've got to deal with this in-house. Going to the cops means you are excommunicated, you are completely cut off from everything you know and love, all business contacts you have if you have a business, like everything. You have to start from ground zero starting today on the day that you do this thing. So it is relevant that Lisa Marie Presley is saying that Scientology instructed her to get involved to try to prevent these women from going forward, or at least specifically Jane Doe 1. But the analysis here, and the reason why the judge ended up keeping it out, it probably has to do with the balancing test, right? Because it's not only that evidence is relevant, but it has to be more relevant than it is prejudicial. And the question is, like, is there a way to get that evidence, or to get, enough evidence that's like that through another means that is less prejudicial? Like that's kind of what the court's going to be looking at. And the prejudicial nature of it is, this is Scientology, right? This is like anything talking about Scientology's practices here in this particular case, because Scientology is not a defendant, right? Danny Masterson is the criminal defendant in this case. So things that Scientology did around this, that can start to become very prejudicial because they have a bad name out there. They've got a bad rep, and warranted or unwarranted. I think generally speaking, the general consensus is that it's very much warranted. But so anyway, so it's that balancing test that Judge Olmedo must have done. And she has the ability to use her discretion to say, evidence comes in, evidence stays out. Like it's that she's given quite a bit of breadth on that. So if there were to be some kind of an appeal, there wouldn't be, because that would be an appeal by the prosecution. Prosecution can't appeal when a defendant has been non-convicted. God, I'm having such a brain fart moment right now. When they've been exonerated. Anyway, when the defense wins, the prosecution, the state can't appeal that, because that runs into constitutional issues. But anyway, like even if they somehow could appeal that, that would be such a difficult issue for an appellate court to like overcome the judge's discretionary decision. Okay. Anyhow. Let's continue.
So as much as the prosecution wanted Lisa Marie Presley to come into court and testify to Scientology's obstruction of justice, they're going to have to save it for the civil case. Very disappointing. But what? Mind-blowing.
Which it makes sense for that to be in the civil case, by the way, because in the civil case, the Church of Scientology is one of the defendants. And it's like that's at the core of that particular case, is the things that Scientology and perhaps Danny Masterson did in response to these women coming forward and publicly accusing him. So there, even though you've got the same sort of balance between the evidence being relevant and prejudicial, you still have that balance, but it's much more relevant in that case because of the fact that Scientology is already a defendant in that case, and that's like what the ultimate question is all about there.
News: Lisa Marie Presley is prepared to testify.
That's a big deal.
That she was used in obstruction of justice by the Church of Scientology. Wow. Okay, so I'm getting this out real fast to everyone. Hopefully before, the YouTubers start jumping on it. And we'll go back in for the afternoon, and hopefully we'll get some interesting testimony. But I wanted to get you that news right away. From the Clara Shortridge Foltz Criminal Justice Center, this is your proprietor signing off.
All right. So, okay. That was a very interesting one. And let's just get right into the next one. Once again, as always, if you are interested in more details on this case, Tony Ortega is doing a ton of work on his YouTube channel, linked in the description below, also in the pinned chat in the live chat, and as well as his Substack, where he's got all of the basically he's taking transcripts of everything that's happening. So be sure to check out all of his stuff if you appreciate the work that he's doing, which I certainly do. So yeah, be sure to go and check him out for sure.
Underground bunker. End of a very long day. Tuesday afternoon. This morning we had the amazing news about Lisa Marie Presley. I ran out at the lunch break, gave you a quick video about that. I'm still just blown away by what we heard. That Lisa Marie Presley has given a statement about Scientology telling her to dissuade a rape victim from going to the police, and that she's prepared to testify about that, but that Judge Olmedo says that's more appropriate for the civil lawsuit rather than the criminal trial. That means that Lisa Marie Presley can only testify about prior consistent statements that Jane Doe 1 might have made about the rape of Masterson. And I don't know. Well, it'll be interesting. I think that's going to happen Thursday. The government's going to have her on the stand, and we'll see if Mueller can't find a way to get some of that other stuff in. Speaking of which, this afternoon, you might have seen in my reports, it was, cross-examination of these LAPD detectives, Detective Reyes and Detective Vargas, and it's just like not the most thrilling stuff. Going over these reports, what do they remember? Cohen trying to build on small inconsistencies, and then on redirect, Mueller trying to tamp them back down again. Really incremental and minor. However, there was a point when Mueller asked Mayape Reyes about, that Jane Doe 3 had written an email unhappy with the investigation, and that this was right when it was switched from her to Vargas. And afterwards, he told the judge what he was trying to get an answer from her about the fact that she had sent a letter to Chief Beck. Instead, Detective Reyes had said, well, the investigation showed up at a website. This caused all kinds of problems because Judge Olmedo has been trying to keep anything with the press out. And of course, Cohen says this opens the door and he can start asking all kinds of questions about how that information got to the website. But she's like, no, we're not going there. We're not going there. She was unhappy with Mueller. Mueller was saying, look, I was trying to get her to answer about the letter to Chief Beck. He said that that this was not what he was asking about. So they argued about that for a while. It's kind of interesting. If you look at my notes, she's going to allow a limited amount of questioning by Cohen in the morning of Reyes about just basically to get her to say, yeah, that this information ended up on a website somewhere, some website on the fringes of the internet,
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this particular issue. Like, it sounds like, I mean, this is new to me, right? this issue of like this, some information. It sounds like maybe the insinuation is one of these women put their complaint about it up on a website. I don't know like why the two sides would be up in arms about that. I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyway, let's continue on.
So anyway, more interesting was that I learned that tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll start out with Jane Doe 4. If you remember on Monday, that's what the big argument was, whether to allow her in or not. I think this is going to be some really interesting testimony. And I hope it's in the morning. And then also we may hear from Jane Doe 1's mother. I think what they're going to do tomorrow is they're going to start out finishing off Detective Reyes, the final last questions. Hopefully that goes very quickly. Then we'll get on Jane Doe 4 and then Jane Doe 1's mother, who I said is very interesting about what she had tried to tell Miscavige. Now, Deputy DA Anson said something about not admitting her emails to the church. So that's disappointing if they're not going to get into those emails, but I think she can testify about them. I think Jane Doe 1's mom can testify about notifying Miscavige about how unhappy she was at how the church was handling things.
It sounds like it probably is a hearsay issue, right? I mean, if the emails basically say the same thing that she's saying in court, the idea is it's better to have her testifying in court about it, right? Other than if there's some kind of a question about her accuracy of not having sent those emails to him, not having notified him about those emails, on cross-examination, then on redirect, they could come back and be like, okay, so here's the email, right? Because then the validity of the existence of those emails is something that is a door that has been opened by the defense, right? But on cross-examination. So, but otherwise, I'm pretty sure, most likely, not having heard the arguments about that piece of evidence, most likely it probably had to do with the hearsay rule.
From what little I know, I think Jane Doe 1's mom might be a bit of a wild card. So this should be very interesting to see what she says on direct and cross. That leaves Thursday, which I guess is going to be Lisa Marie Presley Day. But like I said, even though she's sitting on this incredible information about the Church of Scientology, and it's apparently in a report that was taken just last week, I don't know when or if we're going to be able to get our hands on it, she still should be an interesting witness and an interesting way for the prosecution to finish up. There's also this Rachel Smith. I'm not sure if she's going to be testifying or not. So that should be the next 2 days. Should be really interesting. Then we'll have 3 days off and the defense will begin. We're getting there.
Interesting. Okay, so it
I
sounds
know
like Friday
today was a bit of a slog, but then we
day.
had that bombshell in the morning. Wow. Lisa Marie Presley prepared to testify.
Big deal.
To the Church of Scientology, trying to keep a rape victim from going to the police. If that's not an example of Scientology's, of everything we've been saying about this organization, and from such a famous person,
yeah.
Wow.
That's a big deal.
Now,
it's a big deal that she would stand up and speak out against Scientology like that.
I'm sure the attorneys handling the civil lawsuit must be really thrilled about that information, but we're going to have to wait, I guess. Very rainy afternoon. That's why I'm not in the park. I'm going to try to make my way home now.
He definitely sounds tired.
As I leave the Clara Shortridge Foltz Criminal Justice Center. I'll be back in the morning. I can't wait. Tomorrow's going to be big. See you then, people.
All right. Cool. That is Tuesday. Now let's get on to Wednesday. What happened here? Did we end up hearing from Jane Doe 4? Did we end up hearing what was the end of Detective Reyes's testimony? Let's find out together, shall we? All right.
Underground bunker. This is your proprietor. End of a very long day, Wednesday. And it was a big day at the Danny Masterson trial. We started out finally finishing off Detective Reyes. And you know what? at the end of the day, I don't remember much about it. I don't think it was all that interesting. Oh, they played some video of the interview with Jane Doe 3. And I can see where Cohen has got an issue he can get his teeth into, and that is that they didn't, most of the time when Jane Doe 3 is talking about things, she's talking about the December unconscious sodomy. But when they do have her talking about the November 2001 incident, that is the charged incident, this is that section where I've talked about before, where Detective Reyes is the one saying he's trying to have sex with you, and Jane Doe 3 is just saying, And I mean, this is the problem, is that the defense would like that to be a definitive proof that there was no penetration, but of course it isn't really, because it's Reyes saying it rather than Jane Doe 3. But you would think that if there was penetration, she would have been speaking up about it. So I can see
that's the problem.
Likes that particular sequence, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot about it in the closing argument.
Yeah. So
why, when she brought up that incident, that is the charged incident, didn't Jane Doe 3 more forcefully explain that he was inside her and it was a rape? So
yeah, and we talked about this when he first brought it up in one of the previous videos on one of the earlier days, right? Tony seems very, very struck by the fact that it was Detective Reyes who said, no, he was trying to do this, right? Not that he did it, but he was trying to do this. And then the response from Jane Doe 3 was yes. So when she had the idea is she had an opportunity to correct or clarify, and she didn't. Why didn't she when she had the opportunity, when she was there? Like, the whole purpose of her being there in the first place was to give this kind of information and give as much information as possible, be as accurate as possible. So, and I'm not saying this to criticize Jane Doe 3, but to say that, even though it was Detective Reyes who was the one who asked the question, who basically kind of framed it in that way, the jury might read that as saying she agreed that is the proper way to characterize it. Regardless of whether that first came from Jane Doe 3's mouth or from Detective Reyes, she still agreed with that characterization at the end of the day. So that could be a potential problem for her in this case. That seems to be the one spot that's a little bit tricky for the prosecution in this case, right? Like, everything else has mostly seemed to be has seemed to be pretty consistent throughout, although the defense has tried to pull on inconsistencies between accounts and over time. At least according to Tony, like his impression is that these inconsistencies are so minor that they really don't matter, right? It's a distinction without a difference, right? Like, yeah, okay, there's a little bit of a distinction here, but who cares? It's not enough to sort of call into question the overall accuracy of what it is that these women are saying. So yeah, that's I think one of the few things that I've really disagreed with Tony on here is he seems to be under the impression that it's very important that it was Detective Reyes who suggested that characterization. I don't think it matters. I really don't think it matters. I think that the jury has a fair likelihood of interpreting it as coming from Jane Doe 3 herself anyway, because she accepted that characterization. All right.
That's what happened in the morning. Then it was time for a new witness. I wasn't sure who they were going to go with next, but it was Jane Doe 4. And as you have noticed in my stories, I am identifying her as actress Trisha Vesey. The reason I'm doing that is she has given the Underground Bunker permission to identify her. She's a very highly respected actor from independent films, late 90s, early 2000s. She was in a Jim Jarmusch film. You can read about her. She did some really interesting, unusual, cool stuff. And now she's come forward to describe this rap party incident at Danny Masterson's house. She said they started at La Poubelle, like so many of these things do. And people were drinking, and then Danny Masterson invited everyone up to his house. They went up there, and she said she drank some more, and there was a big, there was a lot of back and forth about whether it was 3 drinks or 4 drinks, And she smoked some marijuana, and then she wanted to go to sleep. Danny encouraged everyone to crash. Don't drive, sleep here. And she and a friend named Justin, found a bedroom, laid down. He slept on the bed, she slept on the floor. They just wanted to go to sleep. And her testimony is that sometime later, Danny came in and pulled her out of there, claiming that Justin was trying something. In other words, Danny was saving her from some poor behavior by Justin, but she was saying it wasn't true. That she was describing a situation where this was his ruse to get her out. She was barely conscious. She kind of lost consciousness when she came to. He's carrying her down the hall by her waist. She passes out again. The next time she comes to, he's on top of her inside her.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I found her testimony really impactful. She spoke slowly. She spoke clearly. She did get emotional a few times, but it was very subtle. I thought it had a lot of impact in the courtroom. They came back after the break. Now, there was some talk before lunch, before they broke, because Mueller started to go beyond that first incident. And the judge wanted to know, now, where are you going? Because remember, on Monday, they had agreed, she had ruled that they would only go into incident 1 and not into incident 2. So as late as lunch, Judge Almeida was making sure he wasn't going to go into incident 2. And he said, no, he just wanted to go into this thing where sometime later, they were all at this producer's house, and Danny blocked the doorway while she was in the bathroom. And it just seemed like a very intimidating thing.
Sounds like a Weinstein move.
So the judge said, okay, you can go there. So we went to lunch. We came back, put her back on the stand. So Mueller guides her through that. It's okay, so you went to this party? Yeah. You went to the bathroom? Right. Danny Masterson's standing in the doorway, blocking, staring at you. And this was after that first incident. Okay, cool. Done with questioning. Time for cross-examination. Cohen asks for a sidebar. There's a little sidebar. All of a sudden, Judge Almeida says, we're going to continue direct examination.
Whoa, that's interesting.
What? Mueller's back asking questions? And then Mueller starts guiding her to the second incident. The one that they'd fought over on Monday that Cohen didn't want him to talk about, and that the judge had ruled he could only talk about one. All the reporters, we were all looking at each other like, he's going into the second incident. Why isn't she stopping him? It quickly became clear that there had been some agreement between them to allow Trisha Vesey to go into incident 2. In incident 2, she was staying at her house, and Danny showed up with a car full of friends. They dropped him off, and he went in to spend some time with her, and he brought a flask of something. And this is why Cohen said he didn't want to go into this incident, because in this incident, she has a couple of swigs from a flask, and then suddenly she's completely intoxicated. What's the implication? What's the inference? Right. That's why Cohen did not want them to go into incident 2, because it's got this drugging inference.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden here, Mueller's asking her about it.
That's very interesting.
She's suddenly intoxicated after drinking only a little bit from the flask. He's pulling her pants off.
Which, I mean, that seems to fit the pattern that we've seen with these other Jane Does who have testified, right? Is that, they're either at his place because of some kind of a party, or he's at their place. It's normally them at his place, right? He like kind of pushes alcohol on them, and then all of a sudden after like one drink, they're like out, right? So the inference, of course, like he says, is that they've been somehow drugged, and then he takes advantage of them. Interesting that it's like just a small swig from a flask here. Okay, interesting. But like I said, that does fit the pattern that has been established elsewhere.
And he's getting inside her, and the best line of the whole day, she realized he didn't have a condom on and was like, what are you doing? At least put on a condom. And she claims he said, diseases are only in the mind.
Yikes.
Well, Scientology watchers, we know where that comes from, don't we? Danny may not even be a clear Scientologist, but he's absorbed a few things, right?
Yeah, that does sound like a Scientology
Okay,
thing.
so we were just stunned. He got to go into the second incident. So then it was cross-examination, and Cohen started doing what Cohen does. Well, 3 years ago when you spoke to Detective Vargas, didn't you actually say it this way instead of that way? Didn't you say that you had 5 drinks instead of 3 drinks, And she kind of fought him. I think that the Jane Doe 1, 2, and 3 did really well this trial so far because they didn't really try to fight him too much. But Trisha is fighting him. And she got in some good lines. Probably the most interesting. He wanted to focus on post-incident contacts, right? That's always a key thing. Didn't you see him sometime later? Didn't he gave you a ride somewhere? Didn't you audition together? And at one point he said, didn't Danny throw a party at the Hollywood Hotel and you went? Didn't he send you a car? And she said, well, actually his brother Christopher came to pick me up. Okay. But wasn't the party thrown by Danny? And she said, yeah, he was DJing under this name Donkey Punch. So the judge had that stricken, but all the reporters were saying how funny it was that it actually got out.
And the reason for that is I can't remember the exact detail on this, but I do remember reading about it. So that is supposedly a nickname that he has. And I think it's a reference to SA or something like it's some kind of a reference. And that apparently was his nickname. That was his DJ alter ego when he would DJ parties. Yeah. So anyway, interesting that it came out in at trial.
And it was on cross, right? You can't put that on Mueller. That was Cohen asking the questions. So the other thing that was obviously the most excitement in the courtroom was just before the lunch break, after the first part of direct examination, Cohen was hot. I mean, we've seen him a little worked up before. He was having a temper tantrum this time. He was practically screaming. He was so upset that Mueller, when questioning Trisha, had got her to say,
"Oh, hey, Nate, Donkey Punch is a drink," says Nate. But what I've seen, I think that's true. But I think also it's an actual nickname that he has gone by. And it's a reference. It's like a reference to SA from what I have seen.
That maybe it wasn't just the alcohol in that first incident. I don't think that's actually how she said it. Cohen made it sound like she brought in this big thing about drugging. I don't think she did, and the judge also didn't think that was. Like she felt that Cohen was exaggerating, and it just wasn't. And the other thing was that she had mentioned what the other guy in the room had said, that Danny, you're full of shit. So Cohen was super hot, and yes, he called for a mistrial. Did you all drink?
That's what, like,
Judge
request number 6 or something
it,
at this point?
said he was exaggerating, and then she kind of dressed him down like, she, what she did? She did the boy who cried wolf thing. She basically said, you're objecting so much, it's just not, we can't take it seriously. I mean, she didn't use those words, but that's essentially what she told him. That you're doing this too much every day. And also not just objecting, but objecting to her rulings and basically belittling her. That's what she accused him of today. So that everyone, all the other reporters were really like, wow, fireworks. I mean, it was something. But yeah, so the cross-examination, she resisted him a bit. They went into some interesting areas. They are not quite done. I think they're going to bring her back for a little bit more cross and then redirect in the morning. But I mean, we're all looking at each other like the prosecution only has half a day left. There's some juror issues that they have to go home at lunch tomorrow. So in the morning, they're going to do Trisha Vesey. They're going to finish up on her and then do Jane Doe 1 mom and Rachel Smith. Of course, we were all hoping that tomorrow would be Lisa Marie Presley Day. But now that the judge has limited what Lisa Marie could talk about, and she could not talk about the obstruction allegations with Scientology, the prosecution just decided it wasn't worth putting her on, unfortunately. So we don't get to see her.
Okay, so she won't be testifying.
But I'm still not sure how they're going to get 3 people on tomorrow in only half a day. So we'll see. That's what's coming up tomorrow, and then a long weekend. But very dramatic day today. Very interesting day. Trisha Vesey, fascinating person. Look her up. Look into her film history. What I kept thinking during her testimony was, as she named these producers and other actors, I'm interested to see if reporters, I'm going to try, go find these people and see what they think. Now, just a quick note, I was spelling phonetically all day. You know how fast I'm going. Somebody pointed out that Scott Kahn maybe spelled C-A-A-N and is James Caan's brother. That could be. I spelled Air One, and somebody pointed out it's probably that word nowhere backwards is the name of this market or whatever. So please, there are probably a number of things I spelled phonetically I got wrong, but help me out if you see something like that. Let me know. But hey, fascinating day. I will point out again, if you're seeing this on YouTube, you're a day behind the rest of us. Please sign up for free emails at TonyOrtega.substack.com. TonyOrtega.substack.com.
It's pinned in the chat. It's also in the description below.
Same day with the rest of us, you'll get these lengthy, detailed reports I've been sending out.
Yep.
Another big day. Lots of fun. Tomorrow will be, like I said, I don't know how they're going to get everything in, but they're going to try, and then the prosecution will rest. We can talk about what do you think that job they've done. All right. Well, as we're losing the light here from the Clara Shortridge Foltz Criminal Justice Center, this is your proprietor signing off.
All righty. Okay. So, the thing about so many mistrial requests here, I mean, that was one of the things that he indicated that the judge started to say, like, hey, look, like you're starting to cry wolf here a little too much. That is definitely something that can happen, right? I mean, on the one hand, as a defense attorney, you want to try to create every possible opportunity to get this case tossed out, right? Even if it's just a mistrial, then you have to bring the whole case again from the beginning. That can impact the prosecution's ability to bring the case, right? Because, witnesses might not want to testify again, all kinds of things like, evidence can get stale. There are all kinds of reasons why having to put on another case after a mistrial can be problematic for the prosecution. So the defense, I understand this inclination to want to try to use every possible opportunity to get the case thrown out in a mistrial or just to dismiss the case altogether. At the same time, you can't overdo it, right? It's just like we've talked about in other trials, like objecting too much. Like if you just are over objecting, you're objecting too much and then you're not winning on those objections. It starts to look like you're just trying to interfere in the process. Everybody in the courtroom kind of starts getting annoyed with you. They don't necessarily want to listen to your logic. And the judge may be more likely to rule against you where there's a little bit of a gray area because they're just like, I mean, come on, you're throwing spaghetti at the wall. You object to literally everything. So that could also be the case that starts to move out of favor from the defense's side as well with trying to request too many mistrials because then the judge is just going to be like, okay, I had it on my bingo card for today. Check. Okay, we got your mistrial request. It's denied, just like all the other ones. You know what I mean? Like it starts to become much more routine. And I see in the chat, yeah, Daryl Brooks doing a Daryl Brooks. That's a good extreme example, right? Because that was objecting too much was just one of his many problems in that courtroom, as we all are very aware. So anyway, interesting stuff that like in one live stream we're like, oh, we find out Lisa Marie Presley is testifying. She's going to talk about obstruction of justice, maybe, and then oh no, she's not going to be talking about obstruction of justice. You know, she's just going to be testifying about like prior consistent statements, and then the prosecution decides we're not gonna call her. We're not gonna bring her in, you know. So it's interesting to see like that initial excitement and then the disappointment on the back end of like, oh well, no, she's not. But it looks like the Masterson case is just about to wind down on the prosecution side. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens on the defense side, because apparently he's only got 4 witnesses. 3 or 4 witnesses. I don't know if he's going to testify. I don't think that if anyone knows that for sure if he's going to, but he's supposed to have like 3 experts, right? So I don't think he's got anyone to corroborate his statements and his side from other witnesses, from what it sounds like. So, which is interesting, and I think that the jury is probably going to look at that and say like, all of these women have other witnesses that are helping to corroborate what they said happened and what they said happened before, right? Like they're to corroborate the consistency of their statement, at least over time. You know, so if he doesn't have anyone to sort of help corroborate his, the jury is likely to view that as a weakness, in my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So apparently prosecution's supposed to wrap up today. Tomorrow, I guess, is a break in the Masterson case, resuming on Monday with the defense side. So I think that we're gonna end up seeing this case wrap up next week at some point. We'll see what happens. But this has been a great update with everyone. I know we've talked about some heavy stuff, heavy topics. Both of these cases, right? They're tough. They're triggering for a lot of people. So I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me, going through all of this stuff. We're all getting updated together as we are working our way through these cases, trying to figure out what the jury might end up deciding. I'm not going to lie to you guys. You know, at this point in both of these cases, I have a feeling that they're both going to be convicted. Whether in the Masterson case, Jane Doe 3 is one of those charges that he gets convicted on or not, you know, that's probably the weakest one because of that statement to the police where she basically like assents to how Detective Reyes characterized it as an attempt versus an actual happening. But I don't know. I have the sense that in both of these cases, they will be convicted of something. That's my thought so far. Obviously, neither side has gotten to the defense case in chief. We'll see what happens. We'll see what kind of testimony comes out in the defense case in chief in Masterson and in Weinstein. But so far, I'm definitely leaning prosecution on both of these cases. So I don't know what you guys think. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments if you're watching on replay. So, but thank you to everybody for watching with me. Thank you to everyone in the chat for your discussion, your reasoned disagreement with one another. I saw Kurt was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he's still in the chat, but talking about, you know, his perspective on some of these kinds of cases and how they should be brought. And I really liked seeing the reasoned discussion in the chat that was very, very welcoming and very respectful of one another. So I love seeing that. I love seeing the sensitivity that everybody has around these issues. And yeah, I appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for everybody for engaging. We got some super chats today. Thank you guys. And thank you, of course, always to the mods for helping to usher that environment that allows for people to come into this space and talk about these difficult topics. And as I like to end with these kinds of live streams where we're talking about some of these heavy topics, I always try to remind everyone that if you are feeling like you have, a little bit less control because of these kinds of cases, you feel like the world's a little bit of a darker place, be one to bring at least a little bit of light, right? Do something good for someone else if you can. Doesn't have to be a massive thing. I think that the world turns on small acts of kindness, small acts of goodness. And we can all individually do at least one thing to make this world shine just a little bit brighter, whether that's for another human being, for an animal, or what have you. So I will leave you guys with that. And thank you once again for a wonderful discussion. And I will see you guys. Bite Club, I'll see you tomorrow for the Bite Club exclusive live stream. And then otherwise, for everybody else, I'll see you in the next video.